us some time today as we celebrate March and Women's History Month. Baltimore County Recreation and Parks. It is an honor to have our special guest tonight, who goes by the name of Miss Chanayes Jackson, who is a business and IP attorney based in Baltimore, Maryland. We appreciate you being here, Chanayes, and giving us some time with Baltimore County Government and Recreation and Parks.
Thank you for having me.
So our Women's History series is a follow-up on our Black History Month series, in where we honored, 4 selected individuals who gave us their time on Thursday nights, and we decided to continue it going into the month of March for Women's History Month. And I'm so appreciative of your time and being here with us, sharing your story, your background, and your journey into becoming the owner and CEO of CDJ Legal, and you're a hometown girl. So
Yeah.
my hope with this series is to give phenomenal women their flowers while they still can smell them. And so I just want to say thank you again on behalf of our Baltimore County Government and Recreation and Parks.
And thank you so much for having me and for thinking of me for this opportunity.
Yes, no problem. So if you could, Chanayes, I just want to start this off. We like to learn a little bit about the individual before the success came, before the outcome of where you are right now. In the midst of times where instant gratification is everything, we want young women across our city, our county, and our state to realize that it is work before you see the outcome. And so we just want to
Yes.
talk about your journey and honor you and your whole experience of how you became the woman you are today. So could you just please give us a little bit of background information just on how you grew up, your foundation for who you are as a woman today, and where things all started for you?
Okay, so I'll try to be brief about this,
But
but
you,
it's
you know,
kind of a
you don't have to be brief. You don't have to be brief. You can tell your story.
okay. Okay, so um I my story starts when I was like I guess 3. My father was, as Duran said, I am an attorney now, but when I was very young, I was 3 years old, my father was killed. Um a year later, I was in the house with my mother, and she had passed away. She was sick. She did not know she was sick. Um, and so I went to in West Baltimore to live with my grandmother. Um, did not have the best, even though my grandma tried her best, we did not have the best upbringing. We slept in a house like it was like 5 or 6 of us, kind of like in one room, on the floor, didn't have any heat. Um, didn't have hot water, anything
Mhm.
like that. And again, this is no fault of my like grandmother. I'm not faulting her at all. She did the best she could with an unexpected situation. It was myself, my younger brother, and my cousin. Um, I was also like raised in part by my grandfather and my aunt. But anyway, we went to live with her. So I went to private school. I had scholarships to go to private school, and so I went to St. Francis on a scholarship. That's where I met Deron. Um, and during my time, my first year of high school, one of my best friends was killed. That was very difficult for me. And then after that, I think it was later that year, my grandmother had a stroke. So because she had a stroke, she could not like work or anything. So I'm like working like part-time as well as being like a full-time student, and like I was going to school in the day, trying to participate in clubs to have some like sense of normalcy, and then I was like working at night. So I will often like get home at like 10:30 at night. I would have to do all of my like homework at school because my home environment wasn't conducive to like academic success, right? So I could not like comfortably complete like homework and stuff like that. So I would have to do it at school. Um, I like became class president, and then I became student body president. So I was really actively involved in school while working, helping like to kind of take care of myself so I wouldn't be such a like what I felt was a burden on my grandmother. Um, and I graduated high school and I graduated valedictorian. Despite all of that, I graduated valedictorian. And that's kind of where it started, where I went to college, and I can get into that
Yeah. So
um, later. Yeah.
I'll just stop you right there just to ask you about like in the midst of facing, trauma that a lot of our youth, whether it be male or female, in Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and surrounding areas, dealing with those kinds of trauma and shortfalls, and a lot of times those issues aren't addressed. How were you able to maintain focus and build yourself back up after experiencing such traumatic trauma as a child? Like, how did you maintain your focus? Because when young women see your story, I want them to understand that it is a way to deal with trauma while staying focused and being able to set goals and accomplishments. So how did you maintain your focus? What was your motivation throughout that process?
It's funny. I wrote a paper when I was in high school, and I said that I wanted to be an example to young girls that, like, no matter, and really young people in general, that no matter what happened, no matter where you were, it didn't dictate where you could be. So for me, when I was in high school, I give all credit to like St. Francis, because I was not thinking about college. I didn't think at that time when I first went to college, and when I first went to high school, I was like, college? Like, I'm not going to college. Like, I'm not even good enough for that. Like, that's something like rich people go to college. It was just like a mindset shift. And I was having a conversation with my uncle one night, and I told him, I was like, well, maybe I'll just be a nurse or something. And he was like, well, why don't you be a doctor? And I was like, and that also shifted my like thinking, how I thought about myself. Cause I'm like, I didn't even think of myself as like even being a nurse, much less a doctor. You know what I mean? I just was saying something, right? But to answer your question, how I like kind of kept my focus was my imagination, right? My
Hmm.
imagination was much bigger than the circumstances that were that was in front of me. I did not think that that was it, right? And luckily I was right. Some people see what's in front of them and they think that is the totality of what exists, and I did not think that. I was like, it just never felt right to me. And I just thought, like, you know what, there has to be a different way. And I was just motivated by the fact that, you know, there are other people coming behind me. If I can do this and I can be like a person who, oh, my parents passed away, I'm growing up in this like less than ideal circumstance, and I still make it to where to this place that I am right now, then other people will come behind me and think, okay, well, if she did it, I can do it as well. So I was really motivated by helping other people.
Hmm.
That was probably my driving motive, but also like I didn't get stuck there because I didn't think that was all that existed.
Okay.
So my imagination was not limited to my circumstances.
Okay. That's amazing to hear because we get to a point in life where a lot of people forget about the imagination based on circumstance. You lose, sight of your dreams. You lose sight of I want to be this as a child, but certain things happen in your life that creates curveball that a lot of people may or may not be prepared for. That
Yeah.
triumphs their wants and outlook on life in general. So hearing that and knowing that a young lady or young woman, little girl can take your story and put it into effects of their life is why we're doing this. So as you get to this place where St. Francis Academy, I attended St. Francis, one of the best private schools in the country,
Yes,
some of the best
it is.
staff, some of the best students. um, they produce a lot of great athletes, educators, and everything else in between. And you say St. Francis meant the world to you.
It
um,
did.
is it one particular person that inspired you and pushed you to be great at St. Francis Academy?
I would say, oh gosh, I hope I don't want to offend anybody at St. Francis. If you guys happen to listen to this, I love all of you. But Sister John Francis was the person who thought of me when they first received the $2 million, and I was one of the first recipients of that scholarship. Um, Mr. Owens, he took me to the college that I ended up going to. He said that
Mhm.
was his college, which was Mount St. Mary's University. He took me personally. He was my teacher. He took me for a visit because I didn't have a way to get to the school. He took me for a visit. Oh gosh, Miss Thorpe. Well,
Mhm.
she was my sister circle. That was where we kind of not only learned about health, but about ourselves. And we started to be like, a little bit more introspective about like how we see the world and how we see ourselves. So that was helpful as well. Coach Shelton, he's reached out to me after, after I graduated and everything. But I would just say certainly Sister John Francis, who was the principal. I think she still is the principal.
Yes.
But I absolutely cannot thank the people at St. Francis enough for nurturing me and seeing the void that I had and kind of trying to fill in the gaps. So
Yeah, and I definitely can relate to that. Sister John Francis as well supported me in the many triumphs and trauma that I've had growing up. When at one point in time, I was paying $300 for tuition, where that was unheard of, and then she dropped it down to 100 to free. So, Sister John Francis, she is a spectacular woman, and I know a lot of
mhm.
people in the community, in the city, and surrounding areas highly respect her and appreciate her.
Yeah.
So as you graduate, you're now a valedictorian. You're seeing your
Mhm.
future, despite the trauma and issues that you may have faced in your past. You see that you can literally, make something of yourself. So as
Yes.
you took that trip with Mr. Owens, correct, Mount St. Mary,
Yes. Yes.
what when did you know that that would be the university that you would go to pursue your dreams?
Um, when did I know? I visited the school, and this is me like at 17, like doing all of my college applications by myself. This is me like, trying to figure out what schools work best, and stuff like that. And my number one thing, I was like, listen, I want to have a quality education. I wanted to go to kind of a small school, and I did not want to go somewhere um where I didn't feel like it made sense for me, right? Because I was always used to kind of a small private school education. So I decided I wanted to go there when I was reaching out to people in the admissions office. They were very proactive. They were getting back to me, not to mention other schools that were not, but they were
Mm,
very proactive. They called me back. They were very responsive. They were helping me trying to get like scholarships and stuff like that. So I really appreciated the fact that they were proactive. And so because of that, I was like, you know what, this is nice. And I went to the cafeteria and I was like, this is nice. They had a pasta bar. It's like a silly thing, but they had a pasta bar.
yeah,
And at that time, I really, that was my favorite. Like pasta was my favorite. And I was like, I have to go here.
right. It was different. It was a
Yeah, it
big
was
change.
different. It was different. It
Yeah,
was different. Yep.
it's a big change in scenery coming from West Baltimore and then a small school, in St. Francis where, the options were limited. So, what I mean, to see the options and it's there for you and it's there for the taking. I definitely can relate to the feeling of seeing those type of things. So, as you get to Mount St. Mary's, you're finding your way. How can you tell us about your undergrad experience? Like, what do you remember? What stands out about being a proud Mount St. Mary's alumni from your start to your finish?
I would say I really was taken in as family at the Mount. Fortunately for me, I came through a program called um, Third Century Scholars, which was this program that was started by someone who was very wealthy, and he wanted to help inner city kids from Washington D.C. However, I pretty much already had the scholarship portion of it already down. I had merit-based scholarships.
Hmm.
And so after that, it just was kind of like, they took me in as far as helping me to kind of navigate college, helping me to like, oh, here's some study methods. Here's how you approach certain things. This is some ways that you can work and still kind of balance school and work as well. Do you get what I'm saying? So I would say that overall my college experience was more so about me seeing people who I may look at them, and I didn't have experience with people who look like that, but I saw that inside they were kind of like similar to myself, and the way that they cared for me was more important than other things that I probably didn't see before. And not that there was any problem or anything like that, but just sometimes when you don't have the exposure to certain things, like the only time I had like um a teacher of a different color, or something was when it was it was a teacher of a different color, so having a roommate that was different, or people just with different backgrounds and stuff like that. And I mean, from class, race,
Yeah.
all of that type of things. It just was a different experience.
Right.
It kind of expanded how I thought.
Yeah, it can be a culture shock.
Yes,
Um,
it was culture.
yeah, like I said, just in my experiences, I moved to Kansas, and I just remember getting there, and I had never honestly, went to school with any white people in my life. Like I may have been to
Yes.
school with a white person, and then to have that experience, and be in a foreign land where you're just so vulnerable, coming from Baltimore, where 85, 95% of the population is black that you go to school with. It can be, a change, and it can be a process in learning how to deal with, people from different cultures and races and backgrounds, like you said. So, as you're finding your way, uh, when did you realize that, okay, I know what I want to do with my life? Like I'm here at the Mount, I'm getting comfortable, the experience is growing on me. When did you decide to, start taking a serious interest in your major?
Well, I would say that happened prior to going to the Mount. I was in the honors English in high school,
Mhm,
and I think as a part of that, we had to read like the autobiography of Malcolm X,
mhm,
and we had to do like this analysis. And I was like, I actually like doing this analysis. So like, I was thinking, well, what type of career would be like suited for like analysis and like this type of thorough analysis like this? And I thought of an attorney. So when I was like 16,
okay,
I decided 16 or 17, I decided I'm going to pursue law, and that's the type of practice I want to do. So yeah, that was pretty much it. And so what I did was I decided to um I decided to major in English because I felt like, coming from where I came from, that I was maybe limited in like my in like how well I wrote, or like my reading skills. Like not that my reading skills were never bad, but I just felt like if I could just read more, I could get myself used to different types of languages, and stuff like that, and different words and stuff like that, so I won't be caught off guard. And so what I did was, I was correct. What I did was, I would learn a new word every week on Wednesday. I called it
right,
Word of the Week on Wednesday. So I would build on that, and every week I would learn one word per week, and then it ended up being like 2 or 3 words per week. And then every week after that, I would keep using that in my definition, so I did not lose those words. And
okay,
so that's how I kind of built my vocabulary. And it's funny when people would think I use big, like people are like, how do you like? I really did take the time to kind of become a student, um, and just learn things I felt like I did not know.
right. That
Yeah.
takes a lot of dedication and determination to do, like
Yeah.
in the midst of just being a regular student, what I mean, finding your way and having a plan, at the age of 16, knowing exactly what you do, what you wanted to do, and then now you're
Mhm.
currently. So kudos to you for that, because I know how hard it can be to even get to that spot and maintain that dedication and discipline. So as we making our way through your journey, you're at the Mount. Um, what are the next steps like? What are you doing outside of the school as far as internships, things of that nature, to help you grow in your career path? Like what steps are you taking to find those internships so that people who may see this, young women that may see this, like, or maybe in your position right now where they're in school trying to find their way, how do they take those steps to find internships while being in school?
So what I did was, I think we had a program through our school. Like I was just online looking for internships, but my school, I think it's very important to be connected to like your admissions office. I actually worked in the president's office, so I was very like connected to like the president of my school, because I worked directly there. And I was, reaching out to the secretary and the vice president of the school to kind of see like, hey, what type of internships do you think would be good for what I'm trying to pursue? I was also reaching out to, I was the pre-law program that had just started. one of my mentors, who's still probably I consider one of my mentors, he had just started the pre-law program, and he was telling me about programs as well. And what I did was I worked while I was in school. I worked in the president's office, just to get some experience in the president's office, but also um, I applied for a governor's internship.
Mhm.
And it was kind of like one of those things that it was just like a shot in the dark. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get this type of internship. Like, why? You know what I mean? So, um, but that's when I learned to never tell myself no.
Mhm.
Um, I applied and I was accepted. And so I was an internship. I did an internship with Governor O'Malley at that point. Um, it was a long time ago. I shouldn't say who it was. It was a long time ago. But so I did an internship there, and what the internship essentially was I worked at the Department of Public Safety out of the inmate grievance office, reviewing inmate grievances, and then developing a policy paper with like 5 people, and we presented it to the governor and his staff. But it was a very like enriching experience.
Mhm.
And one of the things that also like, all your decisions build on the next decision. So it was one of those things that also helped to shape me. And I was like, okay, I can just apply for something. I can just do something. I can think of something and then apply for it. And then, sometimes it works, because
Right.
I thought it was a shot in the dark, but they were like, no, you were more than qualified. So I would definitely say at that point with internships and stuff like that, I think more importantly than how you do it is, remembering that you shouldn't tell yourself no at the outset, even if you feel like you're underqualified.
Right. So let me ask you, like, I know, in my research and speaking with you, I know that you did some incredible work in that governor's internship. Can you
Yes.
explain to our guests, like, the highlight of, being, taking on that internship? Because you sent me something what I didn't know, and you expressed that to me about, the exoneration. Can you just speak on that a little bit in your research and work with governors as an intern?
Oh, yes. So, okay. So those so there's 2 things. So that was once I was in law school, I was working on the Innocence Project.
Yeah.
And as a part of the Innocence Project, if people are not familiar with it, it essentially looks at claims for people who are in prison who have like life sentences. And there is so crazy. Like we look at our justice system and, of course it's it could be flawed in a lot of ways, but also it works. I had a guy who came in to speak with us, and they were asking him like, do you feel like bitter because you were in jail for so long and stuff like that? And he was like, or do you feel like the justice system failed you? And he said,
Shanae, check your mic, Shanae. There you go. You back. You good.
oh, okay. There's like people like saying that they can't get in, but okay. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Um, not exactly sure what's going on, but he said that he felt like the justice system did not fail him because he was able to get out.
Mhm.
Right. So I thought that was like really powerful. But a part of the Innocence Project is, you know, these student attorneys, we're working with real attorneys. And because I was a student at the time, and is we working in like a pair of 2 people, and we're
Mhm.
reviewing like these claims of people who saying like, not only am I not guilty, I'm actually innocent, because guilty and not guilty are different from innocence, right? Guilty and not guilty is like a legal term, is whether they can prove their burden. Innocent is saying I actually did not do this.
Right.
Right. And so during my time there, within like 6 months of me being there, two different people were exonerated.
Wow.
So that was like amazing. It wasn't my cases. It was
Mhm.
not the cases I worked directly on, but I was working in the clinic at the time
Mhm.
that those things happen. And they take years, but it's some really good work that they do. And it's some very like takes a lot of strength and a lot of like perseverance to keep pushing and saying, year after year, we're gonna have to pursue it this way and look at it this way. But they did some really good work. And then back to the governor's internship, it was just exactly what I explained. We just developed a policy paper. Well, not just, but we developed a policy paper um, regarding, it was like regarding like a home detention center. But it was just a very like I said, enriching experience to meet like the governor and to like go from like thinking, I don't think I can get that internship to like meeting the governor and like
Right.
presenting something in front of him, you
Hmm.
know? So again, don't tell yourself no.
Right.
Allow people to tell you no, but don't tell yourself no, and don't think you're not qualified for something.
Right. So
Yeah.
as you get to the end of your stint at Mount St. Mary's, you start, looking for law programs.
Yes.
Can you tell us how you made the decision to choose the law school that you attended, and just how you evolved as a person once you got into the nitty-gritty of finally landing a spot in law school?
So this process has not been like a straight line at all, right? So when I graduated from college, my intent was like, oh, I'm going to go to law school right away. That did not happen, right? I was trying to study for the LSAT, which is the test you take to get into law school. I was trying to study for finals, and I was preparing to go to study abroad, which I did. I went to London for 5 months, my last semester. Um, my last semester of college, that is. So I was not really in a mindset of really sitting down and really studying as much as I should have. And so I
Mhm.
took the LSAT, didn't do well the first year, so I didn't get in that first year out. So I'm like panicking because all things academic, I've just,
Right.
I just, hey, I'm a valedictorian. Why wouldn't a valedictorian do well on the LSAT, right?
Right.
But it is a certain level of humility that you
Hmm.
learn when you like, you know what? Just because I try hard doesn't mean I'm going to succeed when I want to succeed,
Hmm.
right? So I tried the first year, and the second year I didn't retake the LSAT, but I was studying. I was like, there's no point in me taking it. I'm not going to do well enough. I was admitted to this program in Delaware, where because my GPA was high enough, I had a high GPA, but I didn't have a good enough LSAT score. I could do that program, but then I was like, I don't want to go into school in Delaware. So then I ended up not going that. So then I'm like, I'm 2 years out, I'm panicking because
Yeah.
I'm like, what what am I gonna do? Because this is my whole plan. Is like I have an English degree, right?
Hmm.
What am I gonna do? Like I not that you can't do anything with an English degree, but I'm just like, I don't want to do anything else, right?
Right.
And so my third year out, I was accepted to a law school. It was in DC, but I didn't want to go to that law school. And so my fourth year, um, I was calling my aunt, like, hey, like, I don't know what I'm going to do because I keep failing at this or whatever, and I'm not doing well. And she's giving me so much encouragement to like keep going, keep pressing, keep trying to like take the LSAT over or whatever. And then 3 months into the year, she passed away,
Wow.
right? And so she has, and like I said in the beginning, my aunt helped to raise me. So she has 3 kids, two by, her kids or whatever. And at that time, I'm like young, I'm early in my 20s.
Hmm.
And I just remember when she passed away, my aunt was like my big sister slash my mother, as well as my grandmother. So it's like, I remember my friend was like, well, who's going to take care of the kids? And I just immediately thought like me, and it was like, now I have these 2 kids, right? This is
Hmm.
2014. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get into school, right? I'm never going to get into school um, because I have these young kids, 11 and 14, and I can't do it. But you know what? The next year was 2015. I started saying, you know what? I have to like really sit down and give this a real chance. And I studied again for the LSAT. I did way better.
Hmm.
Um, and I applied to law school. I applied late, which was June. That's like the latest you can apply. So I was waitlisted. And mind you, at this time, I had already petitioned the court for guardianship for the children.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm sorry, this is a long story, but I petitioned the court
You're
for
fine.
guardianship for the children in 2014, right? And this is 2015. So I took the LSAT, I did well, but I was waitlisted at UB Law School.
Hmm.
I, in the last part of the summer, it was like August, the court granted me guardianship of the kids.
Hmm.
I called my mentor and I was telling him my situation, like, hey, I was waitlisted or whatever. I just got a decision back. They said I was waitlisted. He called the dean
Hmm.
of UB Law School. The dean called me. He said, well, hey, Chanaye, I'm looking at your resume. You have a really good like application. you just should have applied earlier. You would have got a scholarship and everything. He said, but let me do this. He said, if we have anything open up, we'll let you know. So I talked to him earlier that week. And then the next day I had the guardianship. They granted me the guardianship. And then that same week, he called me to let me know I was accepted.
Wow.
Right. So it was like, sometimes things don't work out the way that you want them to work out, but they work out for the betterment. Sometimes for someone else, right? For someone else's benefit. I had to get guardianship in them first. As soon as I got guardianship with them, I was accepted to law school.
Wow.
Right. And so it's just how life works. Sometimes it may not happen when you want it to, but it happens when it's supposed to.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah. So
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes things work out just, you know what I mean, on a timing that none of us can ever explain. It's
yes.
always higher power than us that's leading the way in some way, shape, or form. Um,
Yes.
so as you get into law school, like you speak a lot about your mentors, and it seems like, you know, mentors, you know, positive friends, families always played a major role in your
Yes.
discipline and determination to get into the goals
Mhm.
that you have. Is there one person or a couple people that, you know, that you would say that are true mentors to this day that help you, you know, put yourself in a position that you're in right now? And can you explain the importance of reaching out and having a mentor?
So I would say this. The person who called the dean
Mhm,
is the person who was, mind you, I am what, at that time I'm 3 years out of college, 4 years out of college. Um, I was in a pre-law program, what, 8 years prior to that. So I was in a pre-law program, and he he had called the dean for me,
mhm,
right? He was my mentor, what, 8 years prior to that. So he called the dean for me to like get me into law school. So I think it is important to keep in contact with people and to um, sometimes not even tell them your problems, but just tell them what is going on with you. You know what I mean? When my aunt passed away, again, this is the person who works at Mount St. Mary's. He is the pre-law program director. He drives from an hour and a half away when my aunt passed away to come see me just to say, you know, to have dinner and just say, hey, you know, everything is going to be okay.
mhm.
Right. And that next year, he called the dean for me because he knew the dean and he helped me to get into law school. Um, so I would definitely say I hate having a favorite, and I certainly have people who help me a lot.
Right.
Um, one of my friends as well is one of those people. However, you know, he helped me a lot. He was very instrumental to my success. But I think outside of that, just having people who you kind of look up to, people who are your friends, who help you and kind of push you into like spaces that you didn't think you could fit in, or spaces that you didn't think you may have belonged in. Having them kind of like push you and say, hey, no, like you can do that. Just try it first. Again, don't tell yourself no.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
mm,
And I hear you say that a lot, like, don't tell yourself no. So this
yeah.
imagination from, you know, that 3-year-old little girl to this,
Yes.
you know, preteen and teenager to grown woman, it seems like that is your slogan. Like you stick to that. And
Yes.
so as you're growing into this you know, this woman, this career woman, you finally get into UB. Um
Hmm.
What was it like after UB? And because I hear, you know, I've heard horror stories in reference to this bar exam. I've never seen it, I've never taken it, but I have a lot of friends who are lawyers and the things that they would go through. And a lot of times I was that friend.
Yes.
I was a strong friend reaching out to one of my strong friends to comfort them during their times when they were just trying to, I ain't gonna say just trying to pass the bar, but trying to pass the bar, committing themselves to something that's, you know, incredibly hard to do. You know, a lot of people fail, a lot of people give up on it because, you know, it's extremely challenging. So I want to hear your horror story. I want to hear your experience with this bar exam.
Okay, so let me just say this. Going to law school was humbling. Like I
Right.
said, I mean, I was the, you know, not even that I was being arrogant, but just sometimes you can be arrogant in how you look at things. Like you can be entitled because
Mhm.
something has always went a certain way for you. I'm Miss Valedictorian. I'm like, well, this is gonna be fine. I went to law school that first semester. I was like, what is that? Like,
Mhm.
what is this? Because it's not, oh, you do the work, you take a test every week, you take every test. No, no, no. You read like hundreds of pages, and at the end of the semester, you take one exam
Mhm.
per class. That is a lot. So it really depends on you keeping up with your work. You're like completely responsible for like how your education turns out. You have to make your notes, you have to make your
Mhm.
outlines, like stuff like that. So that was a humbling experience going to law school.
Mhm.
And it was a different way of thinking. It was a different level of like analysis, right? And so in the beginning, I was not as confident. I was like, at that time, I'm working full time because I did not take the path of like going full time because I couldn't afford to. I had the two kids.
Yeah.
I had a life already, so I had to go at night. So I'm like up at like 7 a.m., maybe like 6 a.m., and I'm home at like 10:30 every day, right? So I'm like trying to balance, like I have like a calendar of food, like a dry erase board where I'm like making them dinner every night. So I'm
Wow.
like, here's the dinner or whatever. I'm like making it 2 days at a row so they can have dinner, even though I know I'm not gonna be there, and trying to have some sense of normalcy for them and trying to have a sense of normalcy for myself, and like being like humbled by like how bad it is, how bad the work is. But you know, I got through it, I graduated, and I knew when I graduated that that was when the real work, not the real work, but the really, really hard work started.
Mhm.
What I did was I committed myself to the process. And my friend told me that he was saying, you know, don't worry about passing or not passing, because one day I just was like crying. I was in the library. I was like, I took the practice exam and I did horrible. And I'm like crying and I'm like, I'm not going to pass. And he's like, don't worry about passing. Focus on what you're doing every single day and don't worry about the outcome,
Mhm.
right? Worry about each step you have to take to get to like be finished. So I made a schedule. I wrote it down. I had a schedule. My day was literally covered from 7 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. every single day. It was covered. There was not like a minute missing. Like, and I did that same exact thing every day. I studied for 12 to like 16 hours a day
Wow.
for 3 months. I think, yeah, I think it's for 3 months from May, June, and you take it at the end of the July. So it's about 3 months, um, something like that.
Mhm.
So I took the test, and I was like, I woke up the morning of the test, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna go in there because it's just you can get in your own head too, like what you just said. You hear horror stories about the taking a bar exam, right? I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm not. And again, this is that voice again. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do that. Like, this is something that only these special people who are like, they have parents who are attorneys, or they are specific type of smart, or like it's only a certain type of people who can pass this bar. And all these people I hear fail the first time. Like, I'm not gonna be able to pass it because they failed it. So you know that, so you get in your
Yeah.
head with your own voice, you start telling yourself no, you start doubting yourself, you sow these seeds of doubt, because you're like, well, if they failed, I'm probably going to fail too because I'm not different from them. But
Mhm.
then what you do is we go to a class. You have a prep course that you pay for. I had one of the best bar prep classes, Shimmer.
Mhm.
And um, they told me what to do, and I did it every day. And I did it every day, and I did not take a day. I took off one day because I wasn't feeling well.
Mhm.
They told me take a break on one day. I took a break, but 6 days a week, I'm studying 12 to 16 hours a day.
Right.
And I'm taking it seriously because I'm like, I took off work. I have to, I need to take this seriously. And so, you know, you get in there and you see people are doing all types of things. You're like, man, he's finishing early or whatever, or this person is not, he's making noises or whatever. You just learn to like play how you practice. And I
Mhm.
just kind of tuned everything out. And I just went in there and I took the exam, and it was like when I was done, I just was like, okay. I mean, you don't know for another like 2 or 3 months, 2 months
Right.
or something like that. Yeah, so you take it in July, you don't know until November. So
Anxiety. Wow.
it's another thing you have to let go.
Right.
Um, yeah. So we were so okay, so you know, I studied for the bar exam. You guys may or may not know there's also a Maryland component. So after I take the bar exam, there's a Merlin component you have to take. I took that and I didn't pass for like 2 times, and then I finally passed it. There's also a Merlin professional responsibilities thing that you have to take. I took that as well. Didn't pass it the first time, I passed it the second time. So in November, when the test results came, I was like, I'm probably gonna have to take it over.
Mhm.
And just to tell you, I wish I could show you the video. I wish I had the video available, but I opened up because they don't put your name, they release the results by like seat number.
Mhm.
And I was trying not to look at it because I was leaving my job at the time. I was like walking out the door, but I like slipped, my finger slipped because it was touchscreen and slipped just one more. And I saw it and I was like, oh my, like it was like I didn't have knees. I like fell to the ground. I just couldn't believe. I just
Mhm.
could not believe. I just could not believe it. And it wasn't in that moment, it wasn't because I passed. It just was the fact that there was something I decided when I was 16 years old.
Mhm.
I decided at 16 years old to do something, and it was like everything has brought me to this point. And it was like I can just make a decision to do something, and it can actually happen for me that way. And it just was like a kind of a surreal experience. So
Wow. So you passed, right?
yes, I did pass. Fortunately, listen, I failed. I shouldn't say I failed everything, but you know, I was one and done, as they call it. I was one and done. And gratefully, thankfully, I took it once and I passed it the first time. And then, honestly, if I didn't pass the first time, it doesn't matter for people who don't pass. It's people who don't pass the first time, they pass it the second time or the third time or the fourth time. No one cares. It doesn't matter.
Wow.
What matters is that you keep your eyes on where you want to go and you keep walking towards where you want to go, no matter
Mhm.
what happens.
Mm.
So yeah.
Wow. Great story. That is an excellent story. So you passed the bar. You mean like you're in this high right now after going through all these obstacles. Like I said, from day one, you maintained your focus. You set a goal. You reached out for it. You had some pitfalls, but you maintained and you kept chasing your dream. And your dream eventually happened for you. So as you accomplished this feat, um, let's talk about CDJ Legal. Like, what made
Yes.
you want to be a female boss in a male-dominated industry?
Yeah, so it's funny. It is definitely male dominated. I don't really think about it often, but it is. And the percentage of like female attorneys is like 2%. All
Yep.
female. I'm sorry, African American female
Yep.
attorneys is about 2%.
Mhm.
Of the whole profession. So 98% of the profession is not Black female attorneys, and then IP attorneys is like even smaller percentage. But it was a 5-year plan. It was
Mhm.
a plan that I always wanted to open my own firm because I worked at law firms, right? I was in a legal field for 10 years prior to this. So I'm like, like I didn't there may have been things that I liked, but I was like, I want to do it my way.
Mhm.
And I just I saw an opportunity when a pandemic happened. I was like, you know what? This is my time to really focus on things that I want to do and kind of jump into this and really go, all the way with my law firm. And so that's what I did. I opened my firm. And because of all of the things, how things have happened before, I don't really have like, and I haven't had any like real like anxiety about like, oh my gosh, it's gonna fail. Like I
Right.
just like if stuff it doesn't go my way for a month or something that hasn't happened for me, it's just like okay, that's just a part of the process now. It's not like so, oh my gosh, when you face your failures, you
Mhm.
kind of get more like resilient to like, and you realize,
Right.
okay, well, that's just a part of it. This is the other
Mhm.
side of success is failing.
Really. Yep.
So, but I also anticipate success.
Mhm.
So I chose this because I want to help people grow their businesses. I want to help people build on their dreams. Your business is your dream,
Mhm.
right? So my business is, doing trademarks, copyrights, contracts, and forming people businesses, and all of those things as it relates to like branding your business.
Right.
So because of that, because I like to help people, and I always said I wanted to help people, and I love the fact that I can help somebody build on their dream, because that's something that's been so passionate to me.
Right.
And that's why I chose this field. I could have done a lot of things. People tell me all the time I should do litigation,
Mhm.
but I like to do what I mean. I know some people consider it happy law for them, but I wanted to do this because to me it's happy law. It's somebody's baby. Your business is your baby, you
Mhm.
know. And I want to help you nurture that and kind of grow it to what you want it to be.
Wow. So
Yeah.
congrats on that, CDJ
Thank
Legal.
you.
If you ever need business services, make sure you reach out to Miss Chanayes Jackson.
Yes,
Excellent.
please.
So let me ask you this. What would be your advice to young women aspiring to be great leaders and CEOs and businesswomen such as yourself?
Wow, I could go on and on for days about this one. But I'll say this, and I said it in the beginning. One, the world is not limited to your imagination. However big you think the world is likely bigger than that. However big you think possibilities are, is likely bigger than that, right? I did use my imagination, as I stated, because I thought, okay, the world is bigger than this, and it was, but it's even probably bigger than I think it is, right? Another quote that I live by is, and I just heard it recently too. It's like, but facing rejection will bruise you. Fearing rejection will paralyze you. Don't fear rejection. You may get rejected for stuff. I didn't get into law school the first, second, or third time. I have my own law firm now. It doesn't matter. Um, it matters that you decide what you want to do and you keep your eyes on what you want to do. So if you trip a couple of times, it's okay.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing, I think it's by Winston Churchill. He says it the opposite way, but I say failure is not fatal, success is not final.
Hmm.
Right? Is it kind of building on the same thing I said before? Just because you fail at something doesn't mean you'll never succeed at it. All of your decisions build on the next decision, and ultimately, um, control what you can control. Don't worry about like how it won't happen. Like, oh well, if this happens, then that'll happen, or don't worry about like I know we talk a lot about like in our culture now, in the American culture, we talk a lot about um, certain things. We talk about like racism and you know female male dynamics and stuff like that. I would say that in spite of all of those things, regardless of all of those things, they may exist, and they may exist to the extent that however big or small they are, don't worry about it. Um, consider it, take it in and be like, okay, that exists, but so what? I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep moving this way, right? And have like a positive mindset. Um, I I don't I smile too much, right? Like I try to find I have a album in my phone called Makes Me Happy. Like I literally look at things that are funny. Like
Hmm.
I listen to things that are inspirational instead of sometimes listening to music. So like, those are the things I think that are most important. So
Right.
I'm trying to stop myself there.
And it sounds like you're big on manifestation, like really
Yes.
truly believing in yourself and manifesting all the things that you truly want in life, regardless of any kind of pitfalls that you may have.
Yes.
So
Yes.
just to ask you again, let me see, what is the term legacy mean for you, and where do you want your legacy to be, and how do you want to be remembered, and where do you see yourself 20 years from now? Like how would they talk about Chanayes Jackson, owner and CEO of CDJ Legal?
Oh, wow, that's a loaded question. So I think legacy is important. When I think about legacy, I think about how many people can I help, right? If my this whole thing has been completely self-serving, it's been like, oh, I'm Chanaye the attorney. Like I try not to say like Chanaye the attorney. I try to say I practice law, right? Because we tend to like internalize our titles, right? Whether it's a mom, whether it's a dad, whether it's the CEO, and regardless of what it is, we tend to internalize those titles. And then God forbid something happens, we no longer have them, we don't have ourselves
Hmm.
because we identify too much with the title. So for me, I think what I want my legacy to be, and what I hope to keep continuing to build my legacy on, is helping other people build up their dreams, right? When I look back on 20 years, I hope I can say, oh, wow, I remember that business was, it was just one person, or she just had this idea. That person, or he had that idea. And now, like, I helped them get their trademark. I helped them copyright this. I helped them build up these contracts for this or whatever. Or just even more importantly, expanding from the law firm, kind of being more involved in the community and things like that, and kind of giving people the experience of like what ownership is, what that means, and why it's important. So as I stated, like, and I'm not sure exactly what my legacy will be in 20 years or whatever, God willing. I just hope that if I can help somebody, I've like succeeded more than I thought I would. You know what I mean? Not even more than I thought I would, but more than any other thing, because that's just what's most important to me, is kind of helping other people to get to the point where they see themselves and have the same amount of confidence I have, with like knowing that everything is going to be okay. You know, because sometimes you don't have confidence that everything is going to be okay. So, and that can be a driving force.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that, Chanaye.
Yes.
So
No problem.
as we're about to close out, I'm gonna just step into the chat for everybody who's online right now. We also are live streaming on YouTube, so it may be people on YouTube as well. So if you have any questions that you want to ask Chanaye while we have the time before we close out, please feel free to step into the chat and ask any questions. I'll start off just by reading a few cute kudos that's in there that I've been seeing popping up. This is from Courtney. She says, your pathway and drive to continue growth is inspiring.
Thank you.
The Innocence Project is an awesome resource. Kudos to you, Chanaye, for your work with them. Keep leading from the front.
Thank you.
Andre also states, perseverance. That's definitely, you can hear that a lot throughout our conversation. Also from Andre. So glad my 20-year-old daughter is listening to this with me. Courtney. Same here, Andre. What an awesome message of not letting anything stand in the way of big aspirations. My girls are listening too.
Oh, that's great.
So, like I said, if you guys have any questions, I'll wait about a minute. If not, if you feel like I've asked the questions for you and she's answered everything that you can think of, that's fine. But up until then, Chanaye, I just want to say that on behalf of our Baltimore County government and Recreation and Parks, it was not only an honor, it was a great pleasure to have you share just an hour of your time with us tonight. I'm the type of person, and so is our organization. We want to give people their flowers while they still can smell them. And we love that you gave us time tonight. You are a special young lady. You've been great. You've helped so many people that I've known personally aspire and achieve certain dreams. And I'm sure that after people see this interview, they will be inspired by your story, your passion, and I'm pretty sure that you'll have a long-lasting legacy, not only in the Baltimore area, but the world, because your stories like yours are the reason why people get inspired and why people get up out the bed when they think they can't do a certain thing.
Yeah, certainly. And
So,
thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Yes, in my law firm, just to let you guys know, it's CDJ Legal. I guess if someone wants my contact information, you can reach out to Deron for anything. So
yep.
I'm definitely more than open. The 20-year-old, if you want to call me, text me. I know, young people don't like to call, they like to text, but it's okay. If you want to call or text me or needs advice about anything, then certainly, reach out to me. I'm very open to that. I certainly believe in like keeping our hands on one another to help each other out in whatever way we can. And that's not literally, figuratively.
Right. And so let me ask you again, where can they reach you at? What's the website? What's the best way to contact you for any business inquiries?
Sure. So my website is www.cdj.legal. So it's the name of my law firm. It's CDJ, so C as in Chanaye, D as in Deanna, J as in Jackson, legal. So it's cdj.legal. My phone number is 443-904-1296. For people, and you can call or text that number as well. Sorry. So yes, that is certainly the information. Again, my name is Chanaye Jackson. That's spelled Chanaye. And yeah, I am, catch me on you can reach me out. I'm sorry, not reach me out. Reach out to me via my website, or you can call or text me. So I'm available.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have one final question in the chat. Who's on the Mount Rushmore of influential women in your life? 4 women.
Oh, that is I love that question. They're all gonna be personal people to me. And I would say first and foremost would be my aunt,
Hmm.
right? And I'm sorry, it's not gonna be like, people like you guys know, but it's gonna be probably like my family. So I would say my aunt, who is, no longer here, but she inspired me a lot, spoke a lot of light into me when I felt like I was in a dark space, or like in a space where I was like, I don't know if I can, do whatever I want to do. I would say my mother before she passed away sat me on her lap and said she wanted me to sing a certain song. She wanted me to remember a certain song, and it was called Just Ask in My Name. And a song literally just says, God is able to do anything if you just ask in his name. So again, even though my mother is not here, I think that always has inspired me. She really set the tone for me. That song sets the tone for me. That message set the tone for me. Um, who else? My grandmother, because she tried her best. She always did her best to try to make sure we were in school. She also spoke light into me, a lot of light in life. Um, when I felt like I was not, I was not, I don't know, I wasn't feeling it wasn't as confident as I am now. And the fourth person, man, somebody is gonna be mad at me, but I would say, I would say, I don't want to give it to one more person, but I would just say there's a few people. Maybe Sister John Francis, only because she took me in, and she like believed in me, and in a way that I didn't believe in myself. So my influential people are certainly people who are kind of like close to me, or educators and influencers who kind of took me in and saw something in me that maybe I didn't see in myself. So
Great. We love that. Andre, excellent question. And so on that note, guys, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Again, Chanaye, it was more than a pleasure to have you on board with us here at Baltimore County Government Recreation and Parks. You're more than welcome to come join us again. Tomorrow, we have another special guest that we will honor for our Women's History Month series, and that will be Stacey L. Rogers, Baltimore County TAO. She'll be joining us tomorrow night at 7 p.m. on WebEx. So again, to all my staff and colleagues, I appreciate all my staff and colleagues for joining in with us and participating, as well as anybody who stepped in the chat and joined us. And on that note, thank you. I appreciate you so much, Chanaye. You deserve every flower that you get, and I wish you continued success in all that you do. Thank you, guys, and that will be it.
thank you for
Good night.
having me.
Yep.
All right, bye-bye, guys.